good right now. I'm feeling good right now. And I'm feeling good right now. I'm on top of the world. I'm feeling good right now. And I'm feeling good right now.
What's up, everybody? It's Kimberly Flowers, the visual branding expert. I just realized we were having audio issues, so I'm not even sure that you heard the beginning of what I was telling you guys. You're watching Beauty and the Brand, where inspiring you to live your life fully, intentionally, and on purpose is what we are all about. You're going to be more effective at producing the results that you want for your life and your business just by watching this channel and applying what you learn. One of our very special guests today, I can't wait I have so much to tell you about this person, but joining us all the way from Indonesia. And this is the thing, guys, connection is worldwide. Our human connection with other people and, just collaboration. When it comes to business, when it comes to collaboration, when it comes to adding value to you, I am literally going all over the globe to find value for you guys. So I hope that you guys appreciate that. Today we're talking all about what is it that's holding you back from that thing that you know you should be doing, that thing that maybe you've already started doing, that thing that has just always been on your heart to do. If you're a business owner, then you have something that you're working towards, or if you desire to be in business, you have something that you are desiring to do. We all want to live a life of significance. We all want to do something special, right? We all want to do something that's going to change someone else's life or, affect someone in a positive way. And so, but the battlefield is really in the mind. The mind is where we lose and win. And that thing translates into our regular life, right? So if you're losing in your mind, then you're losing outside of your mind. If you're winning in your mind, then you're winning outside as well. It's a reflection. So today, I have an expert on the subject of helping us to identify what are some of those things that are holding us back and how can we begin to harness the power of our mindset, right? So that we can achieve more in our lives, you guys. So I am super, super elated to Okay, we're good. I'm super elated to introduce this person to you. So, Steph, I'm just going to brag on you just a little bit, okay? I know you can hear me out there. They can't see you just yet. It's all a surprise, so just hang on for me, okay? Give me 1 second. All right, you guys. So a little bit about our guest for today. Steph is an amazing person, and he's super humble, which is one of the things that I absolutely love about him. But when I tell you this man is qualified to speak on the subject, I'm about to tell you. Steph is an international speaker, author, conscious mentor, and holistic performance specialist. He holds degrees in behavioral science and philosophy, and he's a master's degree in environmental science and commerce with a focus on entrepreneurship and leadership development. For the last 15 years, Steph has been forefront in innovating the global health and wellness industry, and he is well sought after innovator in the personal transformation and leadership space. And through varied experiences, he's had the opportunity to work with so many people, some of the greatest, world's best coaches, educators, and now Steph implements a broad and unique perspective on exploring peak human states while also leveraging the power of body and mind integration, which is what we're going to talk about today. I'm so excited. Steph's extensive knowledge has caused him to become a very well-respected mentor to some of Australia's top professional sporting teams, professional individuals, athletes, professional fighters, Olympians, gold medalists. The list goes on and on, you guys. Literally, like, I could go on, and I will just for a second. Let's see. He also is qualified in the areas of neuro-linguistic programming, Psych K, training and assessment, high intensity training methodologies, physical and psychological conditioning and performance coaching. Steph embodies all of this interconnection and knowledge and experience to facilitate holistic leadership and development programs globally, all around the world, you guys. And it is one of the reasons why I was so adamant about having him on the show for today. So you guys give it a warm welcome. Steph, are you out there?
Yes, thank you so much for that.
There you are. Awesome.
Humbling introduction.
Steph. Okay, so we have so much to talk about today, right? We have so much to talk about, so much to think about. And we're talking, if you're just now joining us, we're talking about what is holding you back. As business owners, we have so much happening, yeah? And when it comes to all of the things that we want to do and all of the things that we have in our heart to do, some of those things fall through the cracks, right, Steph? And so I want to talk to you just a little bit about why that is. So first of all, before we even get started, if you would tell me a little bit about your company and tell me how you got started in the industry that you're serving right now.
Sure. So thank you very much once again for that very kind introduction. Very much appreciated. I suppose I've been in the personal wellness, personal growth, health and wellness space for quite some time now, relatively speaking, relative to the amount of years I've been on this earth. And I've had a very keen interest and a peak curiosity about life and about the way we function as human beings, the way our minds work and so forth. Since a very young age, I've been very curious. And I was very fortunate that my mother in particular, my mother in particular, really nurtured that curiosity and allowed me to explore that in various modalities. So that's really where my journey began, per se. A little bit about myself and my company right now. Effectively, I assist people in becoming the grandest versions of themselves. So really tapping into their potentiality, observing all areas of life and leading themselves through models of sovereign leadership and authenticity and conscious communication with self and others, because relationships are so important in every faculty, domain and area of life, and really just helping them transcend perceived limitations, boundaries that have been placed on us by externalities, and really stripping back the individual to then produce and birth someone that is of great value to self. In other words, living completely and honestly and openly in life. And the liberation that comes from that is quite profound. And for me, I experienced that a number of years ago, where I moved from a very disconnected, disjointed space of being, fragmented almost, into a more holistic version of self, a more connected version of self, where I began to live my truth with courage. So it's a combination of...
Tell us a little bit about that, if you would, because the brand story is so important, right? The development of how you got where you are is inspirational to so many people that are maybe in that spot right now, right? And I think change always comes from a place of need, right? We need something, so we're no longer comfortable, so we make a change, right? So tell us about what that change looked like for you.
Yeah, so for me, that change was forced upon me probably by a number of unconscious drivers from my own part, but more was just very circumstantial. And it's coming out of a relationship where in that relationship, I really wasn't authentic to myself and to my partner. And I really wasn't being honest and truthful and very open in that relationship, and really neglected the fundamentals of what makes a sound, conscious, loving, endearing relationship. That caused me a great deal of inner turmoil. It caused pain for my partner and myself. And what that actually was a catalyst for was for me to make some decisions, some actual conscious decisions, active decisions about what type of person do I want to be, but importantly, what type of man do I want to be, showing up in the world for my friends, my family, my community, the world, my intimate partnerships and so forth. And what I did then was I really immersed myself, a complete deep dive into self, with respect to the type of person that I wanted to be, and really broke down and deconstructed every aspect of self. And that was a very painful, cathartic experience, but it was very revelatory at the same time for me. And it provided me with very deep insight into who I wanted to be and who I was being, which was completely, for me, incongruent with who I wanted to be. So that inner self was not being reflected outwardly.
Yeah,
and
I love what you said about the person that I wasn't the person that I wanted to be. So when it comes to creating these conscious decisions about who am I going to be, not even so much, the conversation is not even so much who do I want to be, right? But who am I going to be in this life, right? That has to do with making a very conscious decision. And it's interesting. I was actually talking to one of my friends today about the inspiration of our exes. It's amazing how relationships, our past relationships, a lot of times affect some of our greatest work, right? Some of the best songs are written based on an experience that a person has with their ex, right? Or some of the best businesses are created from these experiences with our exes, but just in experiences in general. We talk about a lot about what is it, the mindset of change starts from a place of no longer being comfortable, right? No longer being comfortable with where you are, no longer being satisfied with what you're doing, right? And so a lot of our viewers out there right now are feeling that way. Whether you are in a successful state right now or you are just growing. When it comes to being able to come into alignment with our conscious and unconscious development, talk to us a little bit about that. Like, what do you believe are some of the things that are holding people back from achieving what they believe they know they're capable of?
Yeah, there's a number of factors at play. When you strip it down to simplify it, it's a lack of self-worth, a lack of belief in one's ability or potentiality or capacity to execute, to take action, to achieve, to be in that space, which is driven by fear. And the fears are in multiples, and they differ for everybody, of course, because everybody comes to life with their own set of personal experiences and indoctrinated beliefs, understanding of the world, so our models of reality. And with that, there comes an understanding of what then we as individuals are fearful of based on those personal experiences. And that fear paralyzes us. That fear allows us to remain in a limited state of being instead of a limitless state of being. And it becomes very sad for the individual because a tremendous disconnect occurs between one's outwardly projected actions and one's inwardly directed yearnings for life and dreams and aspirations and purpose. And many people actually don't even get to that point where they actually have complete confusion. They lack clarity on what their purpose or purposes in life is. And that's even sadder. And it's so sad because what happens is we don't then show up to the world or in the world fully. We show up and we present ourselves fragmented and broken and disjointed and confused and in doubt. And then the people in our lives, because we are relational, socialized beings, we thrive on being relational with others. That's how we grow. That's how we expand our consciousness and our mind. So when we show up then in a fragmented manner that we are full of confusion or even in part confusion and doubt and fear, then those people in our lives do not get the best version of ourselves. They don't get a full version of ourselves.
They don't get the best version of ourselves.
No, that affects their progress and their development. And all of a sudden there's this chain reaction occurring in life where there's so many of us not living fully because of a lack of self-worth or self-belief. Our belief systems are disjointed or not really connected, and we are occupied by fears instead of stepping into open states. We are restricted in what I call closed states of being, which is constriction, restriction, fear, doubt, confusion, lack of understanding, not knowing our why, not knowing when we need to know our why and when we don't need to know our why. There's no integration between...
That's so good. Not knowing when we need to know our why. So, yeah.
There are times in life when There are times in life when we need to know our why, where we need that conviction and we need to step into our masculine expression and be very clear with our why. But there are times in life when we simply need to observe and be, and we don't need to know the why behind our actions or behind a set of circumstances in fullness before we are able to absorb the information that is coming through to us. So it's a very masculine trait to really be identified with, I need to know why, I need to understand, I need to know this. And there's nothing intrinsically wrong with that. But the feminine expression, let me be very clear, masculine and feminine expression resides both in males and females. And they're simply expressive states of being and ways to view the world. They're models of reality, okay? And we need both in balance and in harmonious balance. Mm-hmm. So there are times when we need to be in flow, where we need to just step back and be in reverence for our circumstances and for what we are experiencing internally as well. And that requires patience, that requires observation, that requires a flow instead of a rigid direction of knowing exactly what path we need to take and then being systematic, logical, and reason-based in terms of taking action towards that why or in alignment with that why. There are times in life when we need that. We need to be directed from an evolutionary perspective, but also from a socio-cultural perspective. But there are times when we just need to observe. Because when we are in observation, we allow just ourselves to just be in that moment or in those series of moments. Greater information transpires and we are able to absorb more information. If we have more information, we can gain greater clarity on that why. We just need to be continent. We have to be in continence with our action taking with our words. So it's about knowing self enough, being self-aware to know when to take action and really dive into the why and when to just step back and observe. And that's a skill that yeah.
Go ahead. Okay. I was just going to say that I want to talk about this discovery of self-awareness. I know that far too many people do not take the time to discover who they are and the capacity of what they are able to bring or add value to a situation or to a space, or, we don't know what we're capable of, a lot of us, until we are put into the position of being forced to do more than we have ever thought we could. Yeah. So
absolutely.
Let's talk about that discovery of oneself. What does it take? Most people don't take the time to discover who they are, but most people don't even understand the process of what does that even look like to explore me or discover who I am or my capabilities or my capacity. So what would you say to someone who is looking to discover themselves? What does the process look like?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. I was actually contemplating this just yesterday, refining this model. So I use a 4-step or a 4-stage model for cultivating very simple self-awareness praxis and understanding life from a way that is as connected to self as possible, because we're always evolving, we're constantly growing and expanding. So when we know ourselves in one instance, the next day something has happened, a series of events, experiences, revelations that then transmute the way we understand and view the world. So it's a constant process as a starting point. But there's a 4-stage process that I have for self-awareness, and it begins with query. It begins with simply asking questions of self and of the world around us, of people, of our relationships, of our key areas of life. I have 9 areas of life in the model that I use. Okay. And it's about asking really pertinent, powerful questions in those areas of life about self and about how one would like to be, about questions about what one's likes are, dislikes are, preferences for life, how one wishes to be in life, how one wishes to show up, how one wishes to present themselves, how they wish to interact in relationships, what ambitions do they have, dreams, aspirations, goals, etc., whether it be for their business, whether it be for their own personal gain, their vocation, their relationships, their physical health, no matter what it may be. It's asking questions about the type of person one wishes to be, but also asking questions about how would one like to see the world, how would one want to observe the world, what is one's highest values, what is one's belief systems that underpin the way we function and act in the world. So it's about asking questions and being in this state of curiosity. See, in my sovereign leadership model, one of the key principles for being an empowered sovereign leader of self, is being infinitely curious. So having
infinitely curious. That's like my middle name.
Curious.
Curiosity.
Yeah. So your curiosity never ends. Your curiosity is consistent and constant. It's a given, just like the breath that we breathe, or the oxygen that we breathe, rather. It's a given. So it's a given that we are constantly curious about life, that childlike wonder. And that's the first stage of being self-aware. Once we begin to ask questions around self, like really deep questions, and even not as deep questions is fine as well. That's not a problem. Any questions, just ask questions about life. Then we move to a stage of being broadly aware of our circumstances. So we have this understanding of all these different areas of life and how they very broadly or very, I don't like to use the word superficial because sometimes there's a negative connotation associated with that, but just how they lightly connect to each other. So we are then able to observe sequences and patterns in our life. And by observing these patterns, it actually reinforces our well-being and reinforces our understanding or awareness of self. Once we begin to notice these patterns, this develops, this evolves, and this emerges into a more distinct, acute awareness of self, where we actually are now discovering self with deeper clarity. We have clarity. We are integrated in our consciousness, in our heart, and in our animal. And these three centers of the human sphere is how we observe the world. That's how we understand the world, through our animal center, through our sexual center, through our heart, and through our mind, through this level of consciousness here. So everything we understand about the world is through those three centers. And in that third stage of acute awareness, of self-awareness, in acute awareness, we begin to really make these connections very distinctly. So we have a very deep understanding, and we can observe very clearly how that event over there may affect us down here. And it becomes a beautiful symbiotic connection to our environment. The last final stage of that awareness, to really solidify our awareness, and this is the importance of our physicality, yeah? This is the importance of our having congruency and integration and integrity in our physicality, is that our physicality is an extension of the immaterial. It's an extension of the emotional, of the psychological, of the spiritual. So by taking action, we physically manifest and enhance that acute awareness. So the last stage is taking meaningful action in life. So we're able to observe the connections, we're able to be aware of self internally, but then we externalize that internal understanding of self by taking action in alignment with that awareness. And that rounds off that 4-stage process of being self-aware in a very simple manner. There are greater complexities to that, of course. Like if you look at Eastern mysticism, there's an integration of self-actualization and self-realization to be self-aware, and they all integrate with each other, and becomes a very deep dive into self. But as a simple 4-stage process, that I find that very effective.
Okay. And I love what you said about taking meaningful action, because it's interesting that our thoughts, it's like a cycle, right? Because our thoughts dictate our actions. And in the same way, our actions are based on what we're thinking about, right? So how we intentionally make conscious decisions, like you said earlier, as we begin to make conscious decisions about what we are going to do in this life, or who we want to be first, and then what we are going to be known for. So in branding, that goes back to figuring out not only, like you're talking about self-discovery of self, but in your brand as well, like discovering your identity and deciding, who am I going to be in the marketplace? Who am I going to be in the space is truly important. It's a foundation to everything else. And the same is true in our lives. As we begin to understand who we are and what we're capable of, then we begin to take conscious, deliberate action, meaningful action towards those things that we know we want to accomplish. And so sometimes we don't always get it right? Sometimes we try something and it doesn't go the way that we planned, and we thought we were going to achieve this level of success. We ended up achieving something completely different, right? And so for many of us as entrepreneurs, this is a stage where people get stuck. So they get stuck because fear sets in, right? Because it didn't go the way we planned. And maybe it went into a negative direction. And so now we think maybe we can't do it, or maybe we shouldn't have done it in the first place. Maybe we should have never tried to do something like that, right? And so fear sets in, and then we begin to cripple ourselves. And as we're crippling ourselves, we're not taking any action, no meaningful action, no conscious action, no action, period, right? And this begins,
No
this is
movement
a very real stage for a lot of different people, not whether or not they're in business or not, but whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish. I think we all have something in our heart that we want to accomplish in this life. But what would you say to someone who is stuck in this place of fear and complacency?
Yeah, it can be really challenging at a time, and I very much empathize with that because I've been there multiple times in my life. And there's two approaches I would take to this. One is shifting one's mindset from a fixed or rigid mindset to a growth mindset. Now, a growth mindset takes a very stoic approach to life and observes value in every situation, observes learning and growth in every situation. So we're having an ideological shift here and saying that it's okay to fail, because our society doesn't value failure. Our society is very success orientated and success driven. Again, part of that masculine patriarchal construct, where there is so much to be gained from failing. If you look at some of the largest companies in the world, you look at Google, for example, they allocate billions of dollars per annum to effectively failing, to experimenting. And they fail forward, they fail fast, and they fail frequently. And in fact, if their people aren't doing that, they're not really working there. They want people that are experimental, that are explorers, just like we were when we were young children. Yes. And failing can teach us so much about ourselves, about our goals, about our business models, about our service to humanity. We have to begin to look at failure from a very different perspective. And it begins with our mindset by saying to ourselves, it's okay to fail. And failure is feedback into who we are, into how we can do things differently.
Failure is feedback.
It's a phenomenal tool. In fact, it's an underrated tool in our society. We need to fail in everything that we do. I don't even like that word failure, but we need to experience diversity in everything that we do, because when we do, we change the way, because it provides us with insight into self. It provides us with insight into how we can do things differently, better, be of greater service, evolve ourselves. That becomes beautifully empowering. And that mindset shift from it's not okay to fail to it's okay to fail, and observing value in every situation is profound for our ability to continue our momentum in moving forward. You look at people like Elon Musk. I mean, he's a phenomenal example of continued failure. And look where he is today. And that leads me to my next model that I have, which is I call a 3P model: practice, persistence, and patience. You must practice your art, your skill, your business, your way of being, your personable approach to life, your whatever character it is you want to build, character trait you want to build within yourself, whatever it is that you must practice. Expose yourself frequently and with meaning, with great intent, deliberate intent, and attention to what you are doing. That's the first step. Practice will lead us to a greater understanding and a greater exposure to that environment. Then we must be persistent. We must be persistent to push through challenges and difficulties, because they are a very natural part of life. And we develop a lopsided, pathological almost perception, a polarized view of reality when we think that life has to be easy, because without challenge, there's no growth. So we have to understand another mindset shift. We need to be challenged. That's how we grow. So we must persist through that challenge. And that's called being mentally tough, or emotionally tough, or spiritually tough. Toughness is our ability to move through the challenge. Then we must be patient. We must be patient with ourselves, patient in downloading the learnings and the information that's coming to us, and patient with our environment and patient with our externalities, because sometimes people don't move as fast as we do in business. Or sometimes people move a little bit too fast for us. And we have to be patient with the process. We have to be patient with each stakeholder that is integrated in our life or in that project. And life can be broken up into mini projects as well. You go on a holiday, it's a project. You have a relationship, it's a project. You have your work or your vocation, it's a project. You're raising your children, it's a project. Some projects are longer than others. So practice, patience, persistence. Very powerful 3P
I love
model.
that. They are. They absolutely are. Especially, I love this whole concept. I just want to go back a little bit to this conversation around being okay with failure, because I'm sorry. But as we're okay with failing and see it more as an explorative journey through where we're trying to go, like discovering what works, discovering what doesn't work, right? And being okay with the process, being patient, like you said, with the process of discovery. I think that oftentimes as business owners and overachievers in general, our mentality is not to fail. We can't, look bad in front of our peers. But one of my mentors told me that you can't be an expert and a student in the same light, right? So you're either you're learning or you're the expert at it, right? And so you need to be able to understand what role you're playing in what season, right? And be okay with being the student in this time, in this space, and learning and exploring, and being okay with falling on your face. It's interesting that we never, ever, look at a child who falls down and say to ourselves, oh God, this kid's never gonna walk, right? Because they fell down a few times. We have total faith in the child that they are able to achieve walking. We know that they're going to walk eventually. So we think it's cute when they're falling and they're, sometimes they'll fall and they cry, and then sometimes they fall and they're laughing. And if we can embrace, I think, the attitude that a child has of learning about life, then we will be more successful, because we're forgetting our failures essentially and remembering our wins and moving forward on the things that we know work and the things that we know don't work now that we've failed at a few things in life, right? Now I want to get talking to you a little bit more about this. I'm going to take a really quick commercial break. Guys, don't go anywhere. We have lots more content, and don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
OMG. That's all I can say. What an amazing session with Kimberly Flowers of Beauty and the Brand. Now, let me tell you something. My biggest takeaway from Kimberly's training today is perception, how people perceive your brand. So as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we have products, we have services, coaching programs. We are absolutely amazing and awesome. But the question is, how do we show up? When we show up, does our service look the way it's supposed to look? Whatever it is that we're putting out there, does it look like it's worth the investment that we're asking? So just going through this session with Kimberly has been absolutely amazing. And the key point I took away, it does not take a lot of money for you to do this. You could play in the arena of the big boys, and you could do that with minor investment. But the key is you do have to invest, okay? So Kimberly, you did an awesome job. I'm looking forward to applying the simple tips and techniques that you shared with me today in my business. So once again, thank you.
Thank you for still being out there. I see you guys. Make sure that you make some comments in the comments area. If you have a question for Stef, then please put a question in the comment area and we'll have him answer some of those questions before he leaves with us today. Stef, are you there? Let's check out where are you at? Oh, hang on for me 1 second. All right, Stef, we are back and I want to play a little game. So are you down for playing a game?
Absolutely.
Okay. The game we are going to play is called Help or Hoopla. Help or Hoopla. Are you paying attention? Here's the thing. We're going to dispel some myths. We're going to dispel some myths that commonly are believed around what it takes to find your inner self. Okay? And so we're going to take a look really quickly at some of those things. And I want to ask you, you're going to tell me if they're helpful practices or if they're just a bunch of hoopla. Okay?
Cool.
Sound good? Okay, hold on.
Sounds great.
Now, this is my first time actually doing a game show on this show. So you were totally a guinea pig. Are you good with that?
Very good.
Okay, good. Awesome. So here we go. I made like a whole set for it and everything. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
We're about to play, ladies and gentlemen, helpful or hoopla. Again, the way the game works is that Steph is going to tell me whether some of these practices are helpful in finding, getting in tune with your inner self, or if it's just a bunch of hoopla. Here we go. Steph, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Here we go. The practice of daily affirmations, helpful or hoopla?
Helpful.
He says helpful. The practice of being still, helpful or hoopla?
Helpful.
Helpful. Awesome. Okay, and the practice of petting your cat, helpful or hoopla?
I'm going to say helpful. I'll explain later.
Helpful. Yes. And we're going to get into a little bit of why you said these answers for each one of these things, okay?
Absolutely.
You have to explain yourself.
I have to.
Helpful or hoopla, the practice of video games?
I'm going to say hoopla for this one.
Hoopla. You have been absolutely amazing. Was that fun, you guys? I thought that was totally fun. Yeah? Did you have fun with that?
Very much. I
Okay.
wanted to say helpful on that last one. I wanted to say helpful.
Okay, so let's talk about some of these things.
Good.
And finding inner self. How are these helpful? So we talked about daily affirmations. Talk to me a little bit about daily affirmations and the helpfulness of that.
Affirmations are complex. Effectively, it's language and it's words, they're thoughts. And we connect to our language and our thoughts with deep meaning. So when we affirm, we are affirming, whether it be within ourselves or out loud, a state of being that we would like to be in, we would like to live through. The reality is, though, affirmations aren't helpful when there is a lack of self-belief or there's an unconscious driver that states that that language that one is saying is not accurate or not in alignment with the true self. So affirmations can be of assistance, and they can be a trigger or a catalyst for us to begin transformation. On their own, they're not as powerful as they can be if they're accompanied with other useful practices.
Okay.
And some of those useful practices can be sitting in silence or stillness, for example, because in that silence and stillness, a great deal of who we are comes through. Most people don't sit in silence and stillness because it can be very confronting. And the busy world that we live in today, it deters us from doing so. There's just always so much to do in life. So back to affirmations. Affirmations can be really useful, but we have to get to the core of our beliefs first. And when we get into alignment with our beliefs and the type of beliefs that we have that substantiate the reality that we live, affirmations can be far more empowering. There's another school of thought that his name is Noah St. John, I believe it is, and he's coined a term called affirmations, where we ask a question. So instead of saying, I am wealthy, for example, you would say, why am I wealthy? Or I'm successful. Say, why am I successful? And what that does neurologically is it allows our brain to search for the answer. Now, irrespective of whether you find the answer or not, the process of neurologically rewiring our brain to search for that answer brings us in alignment with that subject matter, or brings us in alignment with that state. So asking questions, or affirmations as he calls them, asking questions of self can be quite empowering again. But we just go back to that process of query being so powerful.
Yes, absolutely. That's amazing. So what about petting your cat? You said yes. You said helpful.
Yeah.
Talk to
me. Absolutely. And I'm going to say helpful for video games as well, actually.
Okay.
So petting the cat. The reality is that when we bond and we connect with any living being, and we are able to express endearment or empathy and compassion and love, we enhance ourselves dramatically. Like we connect to ourselves, it assists us in placing us in an open state of being. And from an open state of being, we are able to take meaningful, clear action with clarity and deliberate intent, because we are feeling connected to self. We are feeling love. We are giving love. It's very natural for us to be of service. It's biologically hardwired in our brains, in our neural systems to actually be of service. So when we're patting our cat or patting our our pets or patting animals or spending time in nature even, we are really expressing a very natural biological aspect of self. So that, of course, places us again in an open state of being where we can come from courage and transparency and continuity and clarity to execute, to take action. And we have more confidence in self to do so.
Right. Awesome. So what about video games? I know a lot of guys out there are like, yes. You hear that? It's helping me find my inner self, right?
Everything
talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Everything in life is balanced. So I've got another one of my models is called the harmonious balance model, and there's 8 key tenets in that. And one of the key tenets is about not engaging in behavior that is pathological. So if we are obsessive in any area of life or any activity, we then lack a diversity in our experiences, and that's not healthy for us. We look at natural ecology, we look at biodiversity, or rainforest, for example, thrives on biodiversity. So as human beings, we thrive experientially on biodiversity, biodiverse experiences. If we're playing video games monotonously for 12 hours a day, that's not healthy. That becomes pathological, it becomes obsessive.
Right.
It deters us from living life in a balanced manner. It deters us from looking after our health or nurturing our relationships or being of value to society and so forth. But video games, especially in this day and age, especially where technology is going, can be very helpful in assisting us understanding ourselves, depending on the nature of the video game. And it can also be a creative outlet for so many of us. So we shouldn't be too quick to discount video games. It's the manner in which the video game is played.
Yes.
And
I think
the
you
type
said
of
it
video
best.
game.
When we are excessive in anything, it can become an unhealthy feature, right?
Including
so
business.
That's not just video games. That's, it can be a therapeutic moment for some people to just kind of be playing the game, but in balance, right? Everything in balance. And I think that is super important.
The intention is really important. If we're playing video games or taking drugs or excessively exercising 12 hours a day because we are in avoidance or we are wishing to forget or suppress a feeling, we're not connecting to our feeling state, that's unhealthy. What's the intention? That's really important as well.
Yeah, like most people don't even think about the intention of why am I doing this? And I want to encourage you guys, if you're out there right now and you're watching, I want you to take into consideration the things that you're doing. As you do them, ask yourself, why is this important to me? Why is this a priority for me right now, right? And so, because we invest our time into different areas of our life, we are investing our time into specific things. And so it bears a question, why am I doing this? Why is it important to me? Is this beneficial? Is this taking me where I say I want to go? So if you're just joining us, we're talking about what is holding you back, the power of the mind, the beautiful mind, right? And exploring how we can harness the capabilities of our mind to help us get where we want to go in our businesses and in our lives. And we are here with Stef. He's been an amazing. This has been so much awesome content, Stef. I just want to thank you so much for joining me. Stef, we've been trying to do this for a while, yeah?
We have,
and every time it was like something that came up, but I'm super glad that we had this opportunity for you to share with us today. You've been uber helpful. So I know a lot of you guys out there are wanting to know, how can I connect with Stef? I know that we put in the link in the description, a link to his website. So I see that some of you guys are sharing out the video. Some of you guys, make sure that you do share out the video to the people that need to hear this message. But you can get a hold of him at his website there. And Stef, tell us how else we can get a hold of you.
Yeah, of course. My website, www.stefsifandos.com, or you connect with me on Facebook, Stef Sifandos, or on Instagram, Stef Sifandos as well. So any one of those modalities would be great, and love to hear from you. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them
and he's
through.
Somebody to know, you guys. So definitely, he's humble, but he is extremely talented. He's extremely knowledgeable in the field that he's in, and he is among the best, some of the world's best. So I want you guys to make sure that you connect with him, get affiliated with what he's doing, get connected with his mission, his message, and all of those things. Stef, thank you so much for being with us. You have been an amazing guest, and I look forward to having you on the show again. Are you down for being on the show again at a later date?
Absolutely, would be my honor again. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much, you guys, for watching. That's all the time that we have for today. Again, get connected with Stef. Go to his website. Connect with him on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all of those social media portals. In the meantime, stay tuned for more episodes of Beauty and the Brand. I am grabbing experts from all over the world, you guys, to add value to your life and to your business. You're going to be more successful. You're going to be more efficient and effective at producing the results that you want in your life and in your business just by watching this channel and applying what you learn. I'm Kimberly Flowers, the visual branding expert, and you've been watching Beauty and the Brand. Until next time, you guys.
I'm feeling good right now. And I'm feeling good right now.